Chapter 8. Bloody Boxes. When Randy gave them a parting and left, Jacob knew it was a good time to make his exit as well. He leaped up to the tallest tower and used it as a jumping-off point to leap hard into the city. He practically flew across more than half of Sofia before landing hard on a large stone in the park. He managed to track Nicolo's energy signature and find Mrs. Alexandria's house, so he went to meet them. When he arrived, they were just leaving. They seemed pleased to see him. He quickly greeted them and told them of the tapestry, but all they could do with the information was speculate. "So what about you guys? Learn anything?" Jacob asked, after a couple minutes of conjecture. "Yeah, she translated it for us," Nicolo said proudly. Jacob waited to hear what it said, but when Nicolo didn't reply, Leal spoke up. "It says, 'Only those pure of heart may touch this seal. Use it when your hearts it steals.'" "That's it," Leal said, looking a little conflicted. Jacob repeated it to himself and put a hand to his chin. "But what makes someone pure of heart?" he asked himself. They all shrugged except for Dawn, who came running up. Oh, I know. Someone pure of heart is pretty on the inside, right, Mommy?" she asked. It brought a smile to Leal's face, but she didn't answer. "The only people I can imagine being pure of heart are people who still have their innocence intact," Nicolo remarked, looking away. Jacob gave Nicolo a queer look, not entirely sure what that meant. Leal frowned deeply, and Dawn looked between each of them. "What does that mean?" she asked after a few moments of silence. "It means people who are beautiful on the inside, sweetheart. People like you," Leal explained, kneeling down to her daughter with a gentle smile. Nicolo looked like he was about to say something, but stopped himself, changing his mind at the last moment before a breath left his lips. Leal and Dawn shared a warm hug before she stood up with her daughter in her arm. "Regardless, I'm pretty sure we shouldn't touch that thing anyway. I don't know about you, but I trust those birds. They seemed pretty frightened, and that strange light that burned when it touched the crystal. None of this is making any sense anymore," she said, shaking her head in frustration. "Let's just try to relax. I'm not sure we've hit a dead end just yet," Nicolo said. Leal eyed him despite her growing despair. "I agree that we should leave the fountain and its crystal alone. What I'm not sure of is how everything relates to one another." "But then, what should we do next?" Jacob asked. Nicolo put a hand to his chin. "Well, that's the tough part. Unless you want to try and sneak back into the castle and get more information from Madame Everdante, I'd say our best option might be to ask that old priest some more about the strange wolf god," he replied. "She didn't really seem like she knew all that much," Jacob answered. He was about to say more when he was surprised by a hailing from behind him. "Hey, I was hoping I could catch you guys here," Randy called out pleasantly as he approached. "So how'd it go? Did you learn anything good?" We all set Dawn down and she went running up to him. He scooped her up with glee. "Yeah, we got it translated and learned that only the pure of heart can remove the crystal, but we didn't learn much else," Leal explained. "Really?" Randy asked, seemingly almost shocked. He looked surprised, but like he recognized something, or maybe something finally made sense to him. Jacob was a little surprised when he seemed to brush it off entirely. "That's great. Anyway, I got to look at this interesting tapestry, but I can't remember it very well," he said with an almost nervous chuckle. "We already know," Leal said, brushing him off. "You do? But how do you," he asked. "Never mind that. Do you have any other information we haven't heard?" she asked. He thought for a moment before he responded. "No, I don't think so," he said. Jacob could sense in his energy that he was lying, but Leal and Nicolo seemed to buy it. He was about to interject, but Randy spoke again before he could. "Anyway, I've got somewhere else to be, so why don't I just take Dawn and go?" "What? No way, Buster. She's coming with me until this is all over," Leal said firmly, grabbing him by the wrist as he started walking away. "Huh? How come?" "Because I don't trust that you can keep her safe. Between Cardi, Jacob, Nicolo, and I, she's in very good hands. After what you pulled last night, there's no way I can let you watch her until this is over," Leal argued. Randy looked a bit taken aback, but sighed, passing his daughter back to her mother. "Fine, take care of her then," he said angrily before putting his hands in his pockets and walking away in a huff. Dawn reached out for her father. "Daddy, wait!" she cried. She seemed surprised when he stopped and turned back to her. "I love you," she said. "I love you too, Dawn. I'll see you soon, okay?" "Okay," she replied, sounding pretty sad. Randy gave her a smile, and she smiled back weakly, but her smile turned back to a frown as he turned and walked away. After everyone gathered their thoughts, they headed into town and had a pretty quiet lunch. When they were finished, they talked lightly about what to do next, but outside of attempting to gather still more information, they were at a loss. Nicolo got bored of sitting around and returned to the old church to ask the priest about the wolf god, but he returned empty-handed quickly. After that, they all returned to the inn, agreeing that if they couldn't come up with a plan of moving forward, that they could at least come up with a plan to protect Dawn at nightfall. Their strategy was pretty simple in that she should hide herself in the closet and Cardi would protect her from outside it. They were gathered around the small table, eating snacks and trying to think of a way to proceed when they noticed it. In the corner of the room sat what Jacob at first didn't think was the same small box they'd seen before, but the more he examined it, the more he realized that it was the same one. "Hey man, what are you staring at?" Niccolo asked, noticing he'd been absent for the conversation for a few minutes. Jacob just pointed to the box, and Niccolo immediately got up and went over to it. Without hesitation, he picked it up and carried it back to the table. Jacob could hear something sloshing inside with every step. Niccolo ran a finger over the lid. "I think this is the same one from before, but," he remarked. Jacob and Leal nodded. "It's so odd. It's almost doubled in size," Leal said, putting a hand to her chin. "But it's just a wooden box. How could it grow?" Jacob asked, to be met with shrugs. Niccolo opened up the lid, and they were immediately struck by the stench of death, along with a heavy iron taste permeating the air and the foul flavor of blood. Niccolo cringed when he saw it was filled with blood. "A big box that can grow? That sounds just like the one in our basement," Dawn remarked to herself. Everyone turned and looked at her with wild, frightened eyes. "What? You're telling me your daddy has a box like this one? One that can grow bigger?" Niccolo asked in shock. She nodded. "Yeah, it was just a little box when we found it, but it started eating the rats in the basement and getting bigger. And now it's so big it's like a treasure chest," she explained. "Eating rats? You mean this box is alive?" Leal asked, standing up and taking a couple steps back. "I guess so. They don't like doing anything if they think someone's watching," Dawn replied. Everyone's eyes went even wider. "Dawn, what else do you know about these boxes?" Jacob asked urgently. Not much. They have arms and legs and lots of teeth. But the only other thing I know is that after you fill them up, they sometimes get sick and spit out lots of those coins. The ones with the wolf on them?" "Oh my gods," Niccolo said, looking ill. "What? Fill them up? Like with what?" Jacob asked with concern. "Daddy said he's feeding it meat, but I'm not allowed in the basement to go see anymore," Dawn explained. Everyone went paler. "Your father is feeding these creatures?" Leal asked. Dawn winced, seeming upset by her mother's tone. "Wait a second. Hiding its own body, a chest that can grow. Jacob, I think these things might be mimics," Niccolo explained, now looking over the creature in greater detail. "A mimic? Master Nike told me about those. I guess that could make sense, but I thought mimics disguised themselves as treasure chests and tried to eat anyone who opens them. These creatures seem different," Jacob remarked. "We don't have time to worry about that now. We should go confront Randy about the mimic in his basement and get him to tell us everything," we all said. "Maybe we should examine this one a little closer first," Niccolo offered. "I'm gonna go dump this thing out and see if its insides teach us anything else," he said, picking up the box and heading toward the restroom. Jacob followed him since the restroom was attached to their bedroom, but as soon as Niccolo opened the lid and started trying to pour its contents into the tub, a little hand popped out from the side and pulled it closed. Niccolo was bewildered but determined. He flipped the box back over and wrenched open the lid, and as soon as it was open the creature started to screech and hiss like a demonic cat about to be submerged in holy water. Leal set Dawn on the bed and told her to stay there before running over to watch Niccolo struggle with the box beside Jacob. "Come on, stop being such a little... Aha! Gotcha!" he said, wrenching it open and dumping it out. He was so shocked when the little creature screeched with blood-curdling horror that he let the little devil go. It immediately popped arms and legs out from its sides and bottom and started scrambling to get up the side of the tub, whining and struggling as it tried to pull itself up with its stubby arms. Niccolo retched and covered his mouth before saying, "I think I'm gonna be sick." Jacob and Leal stepped up to see what was inside the tub. There in the center of the oddly gooey blood-like sludge that was slowly seeping toward the drain lay a severed human foot. It was small and looked like it was partially digested and caked with the disgusting substance that had been inside the chest. "Where did it get that?" Leal asked in horror. The little box finally managed to pull itself inside of the tub and fall inside. It immediately opened its hatch and started shoving its old contents back inside, including the foot. Jacob felt disgusted but fascinated, mortified by the creature's desire to contain flesh and blood, but also intrigued as to what was actually happening here. "That's a good question. That thing. It's gotta have something to do with all that's been happening. Don't you agree?" Jacob asked. "Yeah, but I'm not totally clear on how it's connected yet," Niccolo admitted. Leal was about to speak, so Jacob and Nicola looked to her, but she gave pause. It looked like she was watching something, so they traced her eyes to find the strange chest climbing up the side of the tub again, its wooden belly full of as much of its old contents as it could scrape up. It climbed up the side of the tub and turned on the hot and cold water, even seeming to test its temperature and adjust it. Jacob and the others were captivated and unable to tear their eyes away. When it was satisfied, the little thing hopped back into the tub and let the water fill it up to the brim before it closed its mouth and started climbing out again. It turned off the water, hopped down from the tub, and started walking away in a sloshing waddle. They followed it without question, ensuring it stayed away from Dawn and Cardi. But the little thing brought itself back in the corner it seemed comfortable in, retracted its arms and legs, and seemingly went to sleep with a sigh of relief or contentment. Jacob, Niccolo, and Leal were completely stunned, unable to explain or comprehend what they'd witnessed. At least they were, for about a minute. But then the box took their attention once more by spitting up just a little blood and a pair of golden coins bearing the wolf insignia. Their faces all went pale. "Didn't Randy give you a huge sack of those coins?" Niccolo asked with a gulp. Leal's face went even paler. "We have to go talk to him. Right now," she said grimly. Without warning, she went and scooped up Dawn, calling for Cardi to follow with a click of her tongue as she headed out the door. Jacob and Niccolo followed closely behind, needing to find out more. Leal marched up to Randy's house and barged inside without knocking, instead calling his name. When she got no response, she decided to look to her daughter. "Honey, where's the door to the basement?" Dawn just pointed her to it. The group went down the stairs quickly, shocked to find Randy standing down in the basement looking bewildered. He was standing in front of a massive chest the size of a mausoleum's stone coffin, wearing bloody gloves and an apron. But worse was what lay behind him. A huge pile of randomly assorted severed body parts all piled up under a tarp. "Leal, you can't bring her down here. What are you doing?" he asked sharply. "What am I doing? What are you doing feeding that thing? Why do you have a huge pile of corpses? What the hell have you done?" she asked in shock. Before he could answer, everyone jumped with surprise when the large chest started to move behind him. Randy quickly went to Leal's side with fright as the chest stood up on large, powerful legs. The creature bent down and used both arms to scoop up a massive amount of the severed body parts and shoved them into his mouth. Before anyone could question what was happening, the massive creature started toward them and walked right on by, heading up the stairs and making the steps break under its weight. It still managed to push itself up what remained and smash its way through the door frame before smashing through the front door as well. "What? But where's it going?" Randy asked the room. "Let's follow it," Niccolo said, grabbing Leal and Cardi before leaping through the broken doorway. Jacob grabbed Randy and Dawn and followed suit. It was about 1 in the afternoon when they entered the streets and could see chests of varying sizes, weights, and even limb counts all in the streets, marching in the same direction. Randy's chest stood out as the tallest, its massive feet shaking the street as it stomped on through. Several were animal or spider-like, and they were all heading in the direction of that fallen city. Without warning, Randy took Dawn from Jacob's arms and ran for his stable, emerging a few moments later riding his black horse. Randy and his daughter ripped down the street in the direction the chests were going, leaving them in his dust. "Hey, where does he think he's taking our daughter?" Leal asked with fury. "I think I know," Jacob said, taking Cardi from Niccolo. He nodded to him. "Right, that fountain," he agreed. "The fountain? But why?" she asked. "Let's go find out," Niccolo said before rushing off. Jacob agreed and gave chase, easily keeping up with his friend. The two managed to catch up with Randy's horse as they rode down the dirt road that led to Paramount. "Hey, where are you taking Dawn? This is way too dangerous for her to be involved," Leal called from Niccolo's arms. "We need someone pure of heart," Randy called back, surprising her. "What? Well, okay, but she's just a little girl," Leal called back. "What do we need someone pure of heart for?" Jacob asked. "I'm not sure, but I'm sure we're soon to find out," Randy replied. Jacob didn't like that answer, but he knew there was little left he could do. If Randy had figured out something he wasn't sharing, they would just have to wait and see what would happen next.